Welcome to episode 22 of the Vegan Body Lab podcast. I'm your co-host Gabriel, and today we're talking with Melissa Ficarra. Welcome, Melissa, to the show.
Hello.
So good to have you here. I obviously saw on your IG that you've been involved with a lot of kind of like a vegan strongman recently. You've done the vegan bodybuilding. You're prepping for your summer cut. I was watching recently on some of your stories.
Yeah.
I mean, how's that going so far?
So we're 15 weeks out and I stay lean year round. So it's not that difficult. It's just like starting to get in the mindset of like, okay, here we go.
Got it.
Getting pumped up for it.
You said 15 weeks out, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. So that's kind of like dropping what, like the last
June.
15 pounds or something like that?
Oh, let's think about how much. So I am bikini, so they want to keep me full. They don't want to get me too stage lean, like as if I were figure or physique.
Okay.
So I'll probably lose maybe about another 10.
Another 10. Okay, so nothing too
Mhm.
crazy.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, and it's quite good because if you're doing it over 15 weeks, I mean, that's like what 0.75 pounds per week, if even.
Yeah. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
slow roll. We just like
Very
ease
like
into it.
nonchalant. Yeah. I remember back in 2021, I had my bodybuilding or men's physique, as they call it, the NPC, National Physique
Yes.
Committee, and I mean that was getting down to I think like 5 or 6% body fat, which was just like it was ridiculous. And that was like I think we did it over like 16 or 18 months, just because it was like I was at a much higher body fat percentage. Always like with guys, like when guys like get strong, they're like, I'm just bulking, right? But then secretly they're just getting fatter over time.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh
Yeah.
shoot, I'm like really back. I gotta like really cut back quite a bit.
Yeah. Believe it or not, when I won my pro card, I got in a little. I mean, I didn't do the DEXA scan, but I did electrical impedance device, and I was 10% body fat. So that was like really lean for a female.
That's ridiculous for a female. That's jeez.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
that's like
crazy.
borderline. Like you're gonna be like really, really not in a good position.
Yeah, my hormones were like all over the place, and the only way I was able to do it is like I just had like a healthy microbiome. Like my gut
Wow.
microbiome was just good. So we just had to keep cutting and cutting and cutting because I won my pro card in 3 shows. So the judges, they had like critiques. They wanted me to bring my glutes up, and you can't build your glutes in 1 month. So we were like, let's
Right.
just cut down to show those glutes more. So we just
Wow.
kept cutting and cutting and cutting. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. That's
That's
not going to
crazy.
happen this time. We've built up since then.
But I mean, it helps because it sounds like, winning your pro card, you had already kind of like a good existing amount of like muscle mass to kind of like showcase, because it's kind of like you can't show if you don't have anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a good point. I've always been in athletics my whole life, and I think I enjoy lifting, and that's exactly why I got into bodybuilding, to prove people that you can build muscle on a vegan diet.
Well, kind of like walk me through. I mean, you obviously weren't vegan your whole life, if I understood that correctly, right?
No. I love a good steak, and I love chicken nuggets, and I love, and now I get to have all that just vegan style. But no, I
Yeah.
went vegan about 13 years ago now. I was in nursing school, and can I tell you the story? This is
Yeah.
wild.
No, go for
So
it.
we're going into our little clinical rotations. This rotation is in the OR, and so I'm in Mississippi at the time, getting my nursing license, and it's a not very healthy state. So we saw a lot of diabetes, high cholesterol. This happened to be it's what's called a CABG, a coronary artery bypass graft. It's like open heart surgery.
Okay.
So it's intense. We saw open the sternum. We crack open ribs. It is wild. To close them back up, we use like a wire hanger, so like.
Okay, this is crazy.
Wild.
Okay.
We're putting bone back together. It's out of control. So when people think that my diet is extreme, I'm like, look at the things that we do because of disease process, right? So
Right.
I wasn't vegan at the time though, and I'm just really interested in this surgery that's going to be happening. And it's Mississippi on a Wednesday, which at this hospital was Fried Chicken Wednesday. And this is like famous.
You're like setting the southern atmosphere here. Yeah.
Yeah, with my country accent. So every Wednesday, this fried chicken sold out. So you had to like get in line ahead of time, and then if you didn't make it within the first half hour, it was just sold out. And I'm from Colorado originally, so I understand like fried chicken isn't very healthy, but I still ate, like plain chicken breast.
Right.
I never got in the line of the fried chicken, but people went wild over it. So here we are in the OR, and we are waiting on the surgeon. This patient's sedated, ventilated, and we're like, where is the surgeon? He's taking so long. So he eventually comes in, and a couple seconds late, and he's like laughing while he has his hands all scrubbed in, saying it took him extra long to scrub the fried chicken grease off his hands.
Oh my God.
And so he had just gotten through bariatric surgery himself that year. And so he had lost 100 pounds, was now coming on to this surgery as a surgeon himself to open up this heart and take out these atherosclerotic plaques. It's just
Oh,
like gunk
my,
built up in your
just,
arteries.
oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm sitting there as we're watching this heart get opened up and these atherosclerotic plaques get pulled out of the arteries. And it looks like the fat on the side of a chicken breast that you would like cut off, just like
Right.
goopy white strings.
Sure.
And I was just thinking right then and there, like a light bulb went off. And I was like, could it be what we're eating is associated with this disease process?
Mm.
And I was looking forward to getting my nutrition class in nursing school and learning about all that. And guess what? It never came. We
It,
got a tiny little blippet of like what third world countries worry about, like vitamin C deficiency and what scurvy is, like things that we would never deal with in America. And that
wow.
was our tiny little nutrition credit that we got. And that was it.
And
So I started diving in.
this is for emergency room or emergency room nursing kind of like education.
No, when you go through nursing school, in general, you learn everything. So I was
Okay.
learning from pediatrics to labor and delivery to OR,
Okay.
ER, all of it.
Okay.
I'm now an ER nurse. But when you
Understood.
first go into nursing school, you learn it all. So I could come out and do something like with nutrition or with those disease processes, not knowing anything about
This is crazy.
nutrition,
Right,
but
right,
having
right.
my RN license. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. With just
So it
like a
was
sliver
wild.
of so then okay, so you had this thought and kind of like this aha moment, and then
Mhm.
you continued your studies. There wasn't really any kind of like, let's say, deeper analysis on kind of like root cause of, what's going on with the chronic diseases, so I mean, where did you go from the rabbit hole there? I mean, how did you continue
Yeah.
to
I mean, you just learn about pharmacology and like the kind of the band-aids to put on all of these diseases, right? So
Yeah.
I just started opening up books and reading a little bit myself, and I came across Diet for a New America,
Okay.
and then I saw the movie Forks Over Knives,
Oh man.
and then it just like opened up Pandora's box, right? Like you start learning about all of this wild things that are it's simply cured. I mean,
Yeah.
diabetes, heart disease. There's just no like carrot council or broccoli lobbyists,
Yeah.
to push this agenda. It's just a lot of money in the other agricultural business, so you never hear about healthy fruits and vegetables. So
Got it.
that's where I like full dove into what was that about, and then from there I learned about the environment and the animals, and now I can't go back.
Gotcha. And so that
Yeah.
13 years, so that kind of like that was a catalyst. You dove in,
Mhm.
started with kind of like the documentary, some of the books, things like that. I
Mhm.
mean, so athletically, were you already kind of like competing or training or things like that at that time, or that was kind of like a little bit later then?
Way later. So I was just a average Joe, you could say. I mean, I would just like go to the gym every once in a while, and like as a girl, I would like get on the elliptical and, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I happened to be at the gym with some guys that found out that I was vegan, and they asked a lot of questions, and like usually I get made fun of and
Sure.
whatever, but they
Yeah, yeah.
were they were laughing that like I couldn't build muscle on a vegan diet. And I
I
was like,
see.
there's so many athletes that are
Right.
thriving on a vegan diet.
Right.
And so I was like, let me show you. And that's when I
Okay.
decided to start training for bodybuilding. And I think I trained for maybe a little less than a year. We started prep for 3 months. And then I stepped on my first bodybuilding stage. It was in front of a big head judges of the NPC, which is our Federation of Bodybuilding,
Right. Right.
and I won first in all of it. So first in true novice, first in novice, first in my open weight class, and then I won the whole entire overall.
Oh my
From
God.
there, it catapulted me to Universe, which is
Okay.
hundreds of bikini competitors, hundreds of competitors in general, but alone I'm going against hundreds of girls. It's a big national stage. And I
Okay.
got
Is
third
it when you
there.
say universe, is it national or international for that one?
International. We have people
Okay.
from everywhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's wild.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. And you
Yeah,
got
top
third
teams
there.
get their pro card. And so I was one away from getting my pro card. Yeah, yeah.
True.
So then my next national show is when I won it and got my pro card. And from there, I went back to the gym like, see, I won my pro card. You can build muscle, as a vegan. And
Yeah. Yeah.
they were laughing at me like, okay, okay, okay. Like, you might look strong, but are you strong? And I'm like, what? Like, what does this even mean? And they do powerlifting and strongman. And so they're like, sign up for this strongman competition. And I was like, okay. And so the next weekend,
Okay.
still with my tan on and my nails and my hair
Oh my god,
extensions in.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I competed in this strongman competition, and then I was hooked. And
Okay.
I went to nationals that year with them. I got third place, and then the next year I won nationals. And just this last year, I went to the Arnold and I got sixth.
This is amazing.
So that's a world stage in strongman. So now I have my bikini pro card and my strongman pro card.
Oh man. So what's next then? So you got into both routes. Are we doing what? CrossFit? You know, the
No,
Spartan races. Like this is odd. Like we're just going from thing to thing now.
yeah. Jiu-jitsu seems fun, I might need to defend myself when I'm like fighting off all these meat eaters. But no, the cool thing this last weekend was the Arnold, and I flew out there because it's the first year I'm not going to be competing. So I saw all my strongman friends compete. I saw all the bodybuilders compete, and I looked up there, and it's an invite. You have to get invited to the Arnold, so it's a huge stage. And if I get invited to the Arnold in bodybuilding, I'll be the first ever athlete to step on the pro strongman stage and the pro bodybuilding stage at the Arnold.
This is dope.
So I kind
Yeah.
of got a hair up my butt. That's maybe a goal that I want to do.
Okay. Okay. Well, I kind of get the sense you're somebody like when you have a challenge, you kind of set your mind towards it. And it's like, you know what? I want to do this. I'm gonna go for it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty stubborn. And I like going against the norm. So if everybody else is like, oh, you won't be able to do that, and it's too hard to do that, I like, being a little different, being a
What
little crazy.
Right. Well, kind of like from the background. So we had 13 years ago was kind of like your catalyst moment. You know, things changed for you. Obviously, you learned how the power of a plant-based diet. You started applying
Mhm.
that to your own health. I mean, what other kind of like shifts did you notice? I mean, in general, not just fitness-wise, but also health-wise. Like, was there any kind of like differences that you noticed as you started to, incorporate more plants?
Yeah, my skin cleared up wildly. I had no idea. I started getting like acne maybe when I was like 12 years old, and it does not run in my family. And so everybody always thought it was like some wild case. And I'm telling you, overnight, it cleared up. It was incredible. I also used to get migraines really bad. When I was young, I would get brought into the ER even for them. I've had MRIs on my brain, and like nobody really knows what migraines are or what causes
Mm,
them. And so they just try to fix, the effects of when the pain happens, like stay hydrated and all this stuff. And then
sure.
when I became vegan, I don't have migraines anymore.
Wow. Wow. So
Yeah, so maybe
migraines.
it's like a dairy intolerance or something in general.
Yeah.
Plant-based diet is not inflammatory, whereas
Hmm.
omnivore diet is usually quite inflammatory. So that could be the difference. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes
whatever the
sense. It
reason,
makes
I don't want to
sense.
go back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, migraines, acne, I mean, they're not very pleasant, symptoms to be having, but it sounds like kind of like what you
Mm.
mentioned. And that's like a big thing of kind of like what they talk about with root cause is inflammation. And like being that you work in the ER, I mean, kind of like what are kind of like some of the things that you see specifically when it comes to inflammation and kind of like, I guess, chronic health or chronic health conditions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we get it all, and even things as small as like a wrist fracture or a break. You wouldn't think like, what does me eating healthy have to do with anything? But like that is your body healing. Of course, you
Yeah.
need to eat healthy. Like you are
Right.
giving it fuel to be able to regenerate itself. So
Hmm.
we don't get a whole lot of time with patients, but every second I can, I get in there and I like give them my little spiel about eating your fruits and vegetables. But I mean, cardiovascular disease is the number one killer in America. So we get strokes, heart attacks. I'm always trying to tell everybody, like it could be prevented. It's a
Hmm.
difficult situation to be in when somebody is like in the middle of a heart attack and stroke. So we're just like doing
Yeah,
life-saving measures.
for sure.
But
For
I
sure.
used to
Yeah.
do clinical research in Washington, D.C. with Dr. Neil Barnard and the Physicians Committee of
Hmm.
Responsible Medicine. And we ran so many studies that was reversing these kind of diseases. Whenever I get a patient that's kind of like sitting around waiting for a scan anyway, or it's going to be like a half hour before their blood work is read or whatever it is,
Hmm.
I like to kind of pop in the room and tell them about, you have control of your diet and of these outcomes. And it's not just totally up to, oh, my genetics did this to me. It's
Sure.
quite reversible, a lot of the things.
Right. Well, I guess kind of what's the response there? Are you kind of like noticing pushback? Is there some openness? Like, I guess yeah, this is like such a great situation where you have people kind of like basically at the edge of life and death, and it's kind of like, well, here's something you can do to completely reverse or even help, kind of like support your health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
In the hospital, people are much more open to it because they're feeling sick and not feeling good, and they're willing to listen and make the changes. It's funny. It's like the bros in the gym. the young, healthy ones that are invincible, that are like
Yeah.
convinced that like what they're doing is right, and they don't need to change anything. I mean, like bodybuilders die of heart problems,
Yeah.
maybe even more. I mean, like they're also maybe doing a lot of steroids and stuff, which isn't helping either. And that's where I like to come in and be like, you could do this naturally. So when I
Yeah.
got my pro card, as a natural vegan, that's just where I wanted to go against the grain. I chose to go on a huge stage,
Hmm.
which is the NPC stage. It's not just like a natural stage.
Right.
And then go get my ISBB pro card so that I go against people that are like on roids and on all sorts of stuff, so that you
Right.
can prove that you can be a healthy vegan
Right.
and go into
Right.
these shows naturally and still win them.
Right. And it's competent, like kind of like showing like you can still have a kind of like great levels of musculature and strength and power and physique. And it's like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
number one, I don't have to kind of like, kill my body or support disease while doing that. But the second point is like I can do that complete natural as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And backstage it was wild because, these gym bros that I'm talking about, that's so hard to change. It's like the same thing with these girls, they just want to be skinny and we're all dieted down, like the tightest that we can be, and they haven't touched a carb in like months. And I'm back there
Oh
like
my
eating papaya and watermelon, like just having the time of my life. You know what I mean? And everybody's like,
Yeah.
how are you allowed to do that? But in these
Sacrilegious.
studies that we were doing, it's the thermic effect of food. I mean, like my body
Yes.
burns hotter than the average person. So I have
Right.
like this fast metabolism that can
Yeah.
just cycle through these. I use the carbs, they don't just,
Right.
I'm not eating crap. And it's a
Right.
whole different
Yeah.
body of what I've generated than what somebody who's just eating an omnivore diet is.
Right. Well, the fuel is like it's so clean. It's so kind of like, it's so easily processed. Like if you think about like a
Hmm.
banana, it like right through you, in a couple hours. It's like,
Yeah.
and then you got like like a steak, right? You have like a whole pound of
Hmm.
steak. It's like that's gonna sit in there for at least like 18 plus hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our
Yeah. And
digestive
then
system isn't made for that. And that's the thing.
exactly.
Like you see this like in terms of the arteries and digestion. So that's why
Hmm.
it's so interesting because like you're living in this every day. But then on the other side, it's kind of like not like alter ego, but kind of like the same kind of like person is now also being like a health and fitness role model and physique and strength. That it's like you're in the trenches, but then you're over there, and it's like yeah, but also you could be strong as hell, doing this.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun to be there. You're in the ER and somebody finds out you're vegan, like a patient, and they're like, "Where do you get your protein?" And I'm like, "More importantly, where do you get your fiber?" Like, I'm more worried about like your issues, not my issues. But yeah, it's fun. It's cool to be the girl, and we have a big patient to move, or like they need help lifting, and I'm always the one to get called in, and you know,
Yeah.
I'm I can secretly, I mean, I can lift over 3 times my own body weight, and so it's really cool to be like stronger than half the dudes out there that are saying you need meat to build muscle. I'm like, what? What?
What?
Not
Can
true.
you even
Not true.
like can you even lift that over there?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I like that.
So you worked at the Bernard Center for a while. So I mean, you guys did some of the clinical studies and you were looking at some of the research. I mean, what
Mhm.
was a few of them that kind of like really stood out to you? Whether it was kind of like previous ones or ones that you guys did together?
Yeah, we were doing a lot. The director over there is an endocrinologist, so she loves diabetes, and that's like the
Mhm.
easiest to reverse. It was wild. So we would have these participants go on this 16-week diet, if you will, and we would
Sure.
have them eating regular, and then they could eat a plant-based diet with all the sugar they wanted. So if they wanted to have Twizzlers and Skittles, they could. It was just a low-fat plant-based diet. So
Okay.
those
But with the
receptors,
caveat of getting as much candy as possible, if they wanted.
if they wanted, yeah, we
If
had
they
no sugar.
wanted.
So yeah, everybody
Okay.
comes into these like diabetes studies thinking like
Yeah.
you're going to restrict me of sugar, and that's not the
Yeah.
case at all because sugar
Okay.
doesn't cause diabetes. It's
This is
actually the
this is
fat
brilliant.
in your
Yeah,
diet.
yeah, this is and I just had Dr. Angela on the show and she walked
Hmm.
us through kind of like what actually causes that. And it's like it's so amazing when you hear like over and over again. It's like, yeah, actually the thing that everyone says is the issue is not actually the issue. Even though yes,
Yeah.
processed sugar is probably not great for us, but it's not actually
Mhm.
the core root, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's years of you like gumming up those receptors, which isn't allowing that little insulin key to open up, and get the sugar in where it needs to be. So later on, when
Uh-huh.
you have diabetes, of course, you can't get the sugar where it needs to be. So it was
Uh-huh.
wild. People were like getting their minds blown that like we're doing a diabetes study and I can have sugar if I want. And we were like, yeah, yeah, it's not that wild. So
Right.
people's A1Cs were going down. We always watch cholesterol. Of course, your cholesterol is going down when you're eating no cholesterol.
Right.
We were sending people to Yale, and we were doing scans that we would look at their intracellular lipids inside of their cells, the fat inside their cells. And that was decreasing, and I mean, like left and right, people were seeing differences, and not even ones that we meant to have. Like some of the women
Right.
in there were like, my hormones are back to normal, you know, like I was going through menopause early and now I'm like
Mhm.
back to usual. And people were like pooping daily, you know, like the
Wow.
things that we all take for granted, like they
Right,
were
right,
like
right.
blown away because they didn't
Yeah.
know this is what diet had to do with any of these systems, these body functions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, what do you feel like is a disconnect then? Is it just like a core education issue, like in our schools? Is it like from the core root with families and their like, lack of education? Like where's this coming from then?
Yeah, all of it, right? So even, our healthcare providers aren't getting the nutrition education that we need, just like me.
Right.
I didn't know any
Right.
better, but yeah, I mean, I wish in schools, like, how often are we taught like what's healthy and what's not? And when we are, it's like the food pyramid brought to you
Yeah.
by, you
Right.
know, all these
Sponsor,
people that
sponsor,
are getting
sponsor.
funded by, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. It's just like a cultural disconnect. It's normal to eat animals and drink their milk, and like nobody's understanding that these are directly correlated with the disease process, much less
Yeah.
harming the animals themselves. And so
Right.
yeah, it's pretty wild. And to think like what would it take to reverse this whole system? Sometimes you just
Mhm.
get like so down. Like I'm not gonna make a
Yeah.
difference. But I'm telling
Right.
you, I just do what I can and try to be a good example. And there's that story, that little girl who's on the beach and there's like thousands of starfish and she's like throwing
Oh,
them back in
okay.
the water, and there's a man walking along and he's like, what are you thinking? You're never going to be able to save all these starfish. Like there's thousands of them. And she picks up one and she's like, but I made a difference in his life, and throws him back in the water. So like if I could
Mm.
just reach out to one gym bro who,
Yeah.
might later on in life have a heart attack, but
Right.
realizes like you're clogging your arteries with all of this cholesterol and crap,
Yeah.
then I've made a huge difference, at least in that one person's life. And that's what I'm happy doing, just living the example and hopefully even changing one to a handful of people. But I get on that big stage and then I have vegan tatted across my forehead, but I'm like the Arnold winner. And maybe
Yeah.
more people will listen. So I'm trying to get bigger and bigger, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're definitely making waves, and yeah, I just thought with that story, I would have been kind of like ironic if there was like a tsunami that came right at that moment when that guy said, "He's like, oh, the starfish come back in." Would have been a bit
Get
crazy,
sucked
but
back in.
right, but yeah, I mean, like definitely with what you're saying there, it does kind of feel a little bit overwhelming, you know? I mean,
Mhm.
even I mean, you probably saw kind of like the new nutrition guidelines that they just released recently, and I actually think that there are some positives. Obviously we're moving kind of like more processed, more
Mhm.
kind of like things that probably don't support our health, but then obviously you kind of like see where the interests are kind of like pointed towards.
Exactly. Yeah. I think a lot of people are starting to realize, the inflammation that they're having and the things that they're feeling could be coming from dairy or, like some of the others. So there's a lot of like non-dairy protein powders that are coming out nowadays, and like people are switching over. There's like milk can be made out of almost everything now, like almond milk
Sure.
and soy milk and oat milk. And, people are
Yeah.
swapping over and seeing like it can taste the same. And so why not
Hmm.
swap? So as soon as you get people, I think for their own selfishness feeling better, then they
Yeah.
kind of get it. But sometimes I get in there with the animals. Someone's got a dog, and I show them it's not much difference than a pig, and then they kind of take a look and step back and think about that too. So that's always
Yeah.
fun too, because that's what got me hooked. Those animals makes a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, it's such a strong. I mean, for anybody who likes or like actually appreciates animals, like whether it's pets or kind of like just as friends or things like that, it's
Hmm.
kind of like there is that level of like cognitive dissonance that kind of like surrounds us. Like, I mean, I grew up with dogs and cats, and it's like these are like my
Hmm.
best friends, right? And it's like later, but why did I never think about like pigs and like
Yeah.
cows? I just never thought about it. It's like there's no connect, and it's so interesting. Like we're raising our son, and we're talking about kind of like the cows and the ducks, and it's like, of course, like when you talk to kids, like there's no kind of like violence or discussion of like what happens to the farm. You just talk about like they're friends, right? And then it's like, but
Yeah.
then after, I don't know, what maybe like when we're 10 or 15, then it's like we stop talking about it. And then there's like this disconnection of like, but what happened to all the farm animals?
Yeah, yeah. I've been through, like little kid classes, or like when I went through my pediatric rotation, or I have kids come into the ER. I've seen it where the kid will be eating some sort of meat, and the parent will call it the name of the meat and not the name of the animal, so they think they're eating bacon. And then they find out that it's pig, and the kid is kind of like blown away. Like that's like Charlotte's Web
So,
or whatever they can relate it to,
yeah.
and the parent is like, no, 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 it's bacon. not a pig. Like,
Mm.
let's not go there, you know? And I'm like, no, kids they're
Yeah.
so compassionate and they're so caring. And, with just our culture says like, don't worry about it. Don't ask questions. Just eat
Yeah.
what's normal. And they don't ever,
Yeah.
they don't ever want to stop to think because it might inconvenience them.
Right. Right. It's kind of like the issues in that I think that people aren't being brave or kind of like standing up because I mean we have so many people like you who are kind of like standing up, being a good example. I think it's like most of us just conform, right? We're like
Yeah.
we're social creatures. It's actually a bit uncomfortable, right? To be the one person in the classroom who's like standing
Yeah.
on the table and saying like, "Hey, this ain't right," and it's like conformity is like it's 10 times easier, right?
Yeah. And I've found if you can find something relatable with somebody else, then you're not such a weirdo, So
Mhm.
I try to like blend in as much, even though I'm like weird and quirky. I try to like do
Yeah.
all the things everybody else does. So we had, for instance, a little piglet down in our basement. We were living in Wisconsin at the time, and they were taking all these piglets to fattening plants, and so they're tiny. They're only like a couple weeks old, and it was the middle of winter, and it fell over. They got in a wreck, and these little piglets were freezing to the side of the street. And so a
Okay.
bunch of us went out there and rescued these little piglets. And as they grow up, like they had the little tattoos on the side, and like they
Oh,
were somebody's property, and it was just
yeah.
sad to see that they were just like gonna go off, get fattened, and then like killed while they were still babies.
Jeez.
So it was too cold for her to go out into a sanctuary, so she was down in my basement, and she has a huge basement that she could be in, but they are so stinking smart. And so within the first night, she learned how to she was potty trained inside of like our cat litter box.
What?
We put a little piece of her poop in there, and then from then on she knew. Pigs are they're very, very, very clean. And they
They
don't
say
like
that pigs are smarter than dogs, and I'm just thinking we
yeah,
had a golden retriever, and it took him like I think months to learn how to pee outside. It was crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Within a couple of weeks she was like figuring out how to get up the stairs, and she would like get the door open, she would get in the pantry where all the snacks are, and we'd come out in the middle of the night and she'd be like, a little snout full of sugar. She got in like the little baking pantry, and
She
so
wasn't worried about diabetes. She's good. Remember,
and it's
no
the
fat,
fat
no
that
cholesterol.
yeah, yeah. But it was cool. We would bring like neighborhood kids over, like, want to come play with our pig, and they'd be like, you have a pig in your basement, and then they'd just see she's just like a little tiny puppy. And I
Yeah.
would take her out
Yeah.
on walks with like a little leash and just like
Oh
show
my
them
god.
she's just like a puppy. And so now she's 900 pounds and like too big to do that. But when
What
she was
the?
little, I
Oh my
loved
god.
having these people see, it's just like a puppy, and they're just, I mean, they're smarter than puppies, but like if you could just kind of correlate one to the other, and not they grew up on farms where they're just food, and then you never get to know they
Right.
have a personality and they have a will and a family just like everybody else, and the
Hmm.
will to live. It's they're
It's just a
little
show.
unique creatures just
Yeah.
like all of us.
You guys still stay in contact or?
Yeah, she's out at a sanctuary. So when she got old enough and the spring came and it was warm, we introduced her to the other pigs and horses. It's a vegan sanctuary. So in
Oh,
Chicago
nice.
they have a lot of horses from like the carriage rides that used to go
Hmm.
on down in downtown Chicago. But now she has um chicken friends, rooster friends, goat friends, all from like petting zoos, or there's a couple turkeys out there that were going to be Thanksgiving dinner, and they got saved
Oh,
by
no.
this sanctuary. So yeah, I still go see her every once in a while, and she's getting fatter and fatter and fatter because that's what she was bred to do, like they
Okay.
would never be this huge. So she has a lot of issues.
I
Like
see.
joint wise, we have to not let her eat all the food that she would love to because
Hmm.
she's just
Right.
grown to get massive. And so now she's 4 years old and huge, but still very
Wow.
smart. She remembers me. I've gone a year without seeing her, and she remembers me as soon as I come back. It's wild. She's
Wow.
so big and
Amazing.
smart. Hmm.
What's the normal lifespan of a pig like when it's not slaughtered so early?
I think 15, 20 years, right? Like
Wow.
they
Wow.
are, yeah, there are indoor pigs that live for a long, long time. Like if you have an
Yeah.
indoor cat or outdoor cat, they live longer indoors. But there's a
Yeah.
couple that are just pets and they're brought in, and yeah, and they live forever. And so to think that they're getting slaughtered at 6 months, they're tiny little babies still.
Oh my
Wild.
god.
Mhm.
Jeez. This is like, with the male chicks, they put them in the grinders and they're just like they were born like I don't know a few weeks ago or something like that. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's hard. We're gonna have to look that up. How long does a pig live?
Yeah. No, this is a good
The
one. Yeah,
longest
because
world
this
record.
this is like a dog size span basically.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's the same. I know cows are like 20 years, and we butcher them early. But yeah, we'd have to look up what a pig is.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how long she goes for, and we'll get back on in this podcast in 20 years,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'll tell you she's still alive.
Yeah. Well, kind of like walk me through. So we went through the kind of like your health journey, your fitness kind of like experiences. Now with athletics, we
Mm,
kind of like have the vision here. So your work with the ER, obviously you're busy helping people life kind of like life and death situations, right?
yeah.
Outside of that, kind of like where are you kind of like bringing forward kind of like your plant-based mission and kind of like the impact that you want to have.
Yeah, sometimes I think like if you just get into the community in general, and you don't let them know you're vegan right away, and then well, they find out that you're normal and you're fun, and so like bowling and volleyball, I'll get all a part of all that. My mom and her little church group, and then everybody later on learns that I'm vegan. So I've done things like when Cowspiracy came out, I rented a theater out, and a bunch of my friends just came out, people from the gym. Like, I don't think they knew what they were getting into and what it was about, because they didn't know I was the crazy vegan yet.
Oh,
But
right,
we
right, right.
had we had so much, like, we had food for them. So when you came in, we had like falafels and soup, and it was in the winter.
Oh,
So
nice.
you would like come in and get your snacks and eat and see that, like, oh, this food was really good. Still not realizing it's vegan. And then you go in and you watch the movie, and then you start realizing, like, oh my gosh, okay, so this is what she's about. And then people start coming up to me and asking questions about, like, how do you live and how did you build that muscle? I didn't know that you were vegan. And so I try not to be like the angry in your face vegan all
Hmm.
the time. I try to just like
Hmm.
live a normal life. But I mean, I'm like going through a grocery store, and people look in my cart and they see that me and my husband are in shape, and they're like, wow, it's just fruits and vegetables. And we're like, yeah, we're vegan. And so we like try to drop those little seeds all along the way. And so people start realizing like it's normal and maybe even healthier to not eat
Yeah.
animals. And so it's
Right,
cool
right,
that
right.
way. But sometimes I just go into restaurants, and knowing they don't have any vegan options, I just walk in and I'm like, do you have anything for vegans? So that they hear it again and again. And then maybe if a ton of us keep going into those restaurants, they're like, maybe we should have a vegan option. And, I sometimes get a little
You're
wild
going in
about
like
that. But
disguises, like every time, like just a different.
yeah,
It's
most
like,
casual
man,
there.
all right, any vegan here?
Yeah, yeah. What? You don't have any vegan food?
Oh my
Man,
god.
stop coming in like this.
Well, talk to me about the healthcare system then. So, do you feel like we're moving in the right direction of kind of like, you've worked with Dr. Bernard. We have all these plant-based doctors. Like, are things moving in the right direction, or is there still a lot of groundwork to be done here?
There's a lot of groundwork to be had, I think. But there are a lot more. I mean, there's more studies coming out. Dan Buettner in his book of like the blue zones and the
Hmm.
centurions, people that are living to be 100, and people are
Hmm.
more and more educated on like longevity now, where
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe back in the day, in the 90s, we just all wanted to be really skinny, and
Hmm.
maybe now we're
Yeah.
going the other way of, all the gym bros just want to be on roids and they don't care about living forever. But I don't know. I'd like to think that there's a lot of people caring about longevity, and that is directly correlated to food. And then we're becoming more, it's more normal to like look at yourself as a whole, like your mental, your physical, your spiritual, and why all that's
Hmm.
connected too. And so it's not just like pieced apart like it used to be. So I think people are understanding like spirituality aspect of it and the mental health aspect of it. And so it's coming in also being healthy with food. It's just there's so much information out there. It gets confusing for me too, like
Right.
you're supposed to have butter
Right.
one week and then you're not supposed to have butter another week, so there's a lot of like evidence that's back and forth, and it depends on who funded the studies, and it's
Yeah.
rough. There's a lot of media that just like go against each other of what's healthy and what's not. But I think there's more and more there's more plant-based evidence coming out for sure. And it's with big documentaries like the Game Changers that came out, and then What the
Hmm.
Health. It's becoming more mainstream. Those are on Netflix and Amazon
Hmm.
Prime. Watch those, and then people are starting to understand. I think it's turning in a
Yeah.
good direction.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like what you just said there. That's kind of like the issues with the health fragmentation. Like you have like one kind of like
Mm,
piece of evidence that says one thing here, then you have another over here, and it's kind of like some of it makes sense, some of it's like okay, this is kind of weird, some of it's like okay, this has a lot of studies, the other one has like two studies, but it's like but one of it's getting more attention. It's just all this fragmentation, and I think that's where there's so much confusion where people actually, I think humans in general intuitively recognize like yes, like fruits, vegetables, like whole foods, maybe if even if they're not buying into kind of like okay vegan or whole food plant-based, but like
mhm,
I think people intuitively like I don't think we're stupid as a species, but I think a lot of us were just misled, and
yeah.
I think that most of us like sometimes it's easy to deceive us, right? Because we want to believe something sure, like, oh yeah, my mom told me it's okay to have chicken nuggets, or
Mhm.
my dad always said like have a lot of meat and stuff like that. So it's kind of like we want to, like, part of us knows something, and then the other part's like, no, but I want to like believe what I was told, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't know what you were taught growing up, but it was always like, this is normal and this is okay and this is what we do, and you just grow up and you're in these like easy comforts of life, and you sit down
Mhm.
on a Wednesday and you have your pint of ice cream while you watch a movie, and it's easy to get in these like comfort divots
Yeah.
and not look at like the overall picture of like, I'm more and more by myself and I'm not spending time outside and would get
Mhm.
vitamin D from the sun or around people, that my little community. And so I think, yeah, it's easy to get like locked in and down bad habits, but that's why I hope to come in and keep being like, it's not always easy and it's not always fun, but it's better for you in the end. I don't want to go to the gym every day and I hate waking up so early and but you do it because it's better for you in the end and then you come out and I think having goals is a big thing. So I saw these study participants like they wanted to lose this much weight or they wanted to be able to like sleep 8 hours finally or
Mhm.
like whatever if it was a marker in their blood that they wanted to
Sure.
reach. It's good to
Sure.
have a goal and then go towards that. But I think it's harder and harder to do that because you could just stay in your house and never go outside. You just get stuck on social media and you see these
Mhm.
unrealistic goals that you could never be like or look like. And that's sad because we all started from somewhere and you just got to
Yeah.
take the step forward to get in that direction. And it's easier to not nowadays to just get things delivered to you and you never have to go
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, yeah, no, makes sense. Kind of complacency, it's just easier to kind of
Mhm.
like sink into that. And I mean, being someone who's won two pro cards in like two different athletic kind of like sports, what helps you kind of like stay focused on? Like, what allows you to kind of like keep your head down? Like, I mean, you
Mm.
just said it's like it's not you're not looking forward to I got to wake up early and do the
Yeah.
workout, but you're still doing it though. You're still showing up,
Yeah.
right? And you're being one hell of a consistent person with it.
Yeah, yeah, you have to be. That always is more over motivation, but I do it for the animals. I really do. So, like when I'm
Mhm.
backstage and we were going out at the Arnold, and there's like hundreds of people watching and you're about to have to lift the heaviest weight you've ever lifted in your whole life and you don't know if you can. I
Mhm.
had little videos on of like what the animals went through. I would pull up Earthlings and I would see
Mm.
like these calves and these tiny little baby chicks get ground up and it was just
Oh my
wild
god.
to me. So
Oh
I
my god.
remember vividly at the Arnold we had a yoke. And so this is like a huge contraption that you have to get under, and you put it on your
Mhm.
traps and you have to lift it and walk. Um and you can hurt yourself seriously because it's a massive amount of weight. And in fact, in training, after a day of training yoke, we get what's called the yoke flu. It is such a
Oh.
tax on your central nervous system that you get sick after. Like the next day, you're just tired and feverish and you feel like
Right.
crap. But this is like a very difficult event. You have to lift
Mm.
and run with a massive amount of weight. And this is like 3 times my
Jeez.
body weight, if not more. And
Oh my god.
so I was backstage and I was just watching Earthlings. And when I got out on that competitive floor, it wasn't the lights or the spectators cheering. All I thought about was like, I have to save this little baby cat and I have to lift him
Mm.
and I have to run with him. And so that like
Mhm.
got in my head and I flew, because
Oh my god.
if it's just for myself, I have a hard time of like following through. So yeah, I don't
Mhm.
want to get on stage and look dumb up there. Like I want to be able to do the best I can
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
But if it's
Right.
just for me, like nah, I'll be lazy and I'll stay indoors and like fall asleep and like hit the snooze button 1,000 times. But if I know that I'm like making a difference, that maybe somebody's gonna stop eating animals one day because they saw, oh, I can gain muscle some other way, that's what
Right.
gets me up and that's what gets me motivated. So I become that little angry vegan in my head of like, oh, you guys are killing baby chicks and those
Yeah.
tiny little piglets. Like I love them so much and I just want people to understand like they're little beings too, and
Mhm.
we don't have to slaughter them by the billions
Oh my
to be able
gosh.
to gain muscle. You can do it 1,000 other ways.
Right, right. I'm curious because you mentioned you had a different background growing up. I mean, what was your family's reaction? Kind of like going plant-based vegan.
Um, it wasn't so wild because I come from Colorado where it's pretty healthy. So, in my Easter basket every Sunday that we had that Easter celebration, there would be like bananas in there along with like jelly beans. And for Halloween, my mom would be like, you get 2 pieces of candy and that's it. Like you put like bins on it. So I think we were like pretty outdoorsy and healthy to begin with. So when
Yeah.
I started moving that direction, now my mom eats plant based and it's like normal for her and
Wow.
she's lost weight and
Oh my God.
hormones are doing a lot better. And yeah. She spreads the word around too. So I don't think it was that wild of an idea, but yeah, I can imagine people, in the deep South where everybody, it's like comfort
Sure.
food and like getting together is like a celebration.
Yeah.
Like how hard
Yeah.
that would be. And then you're just looked at as odd. But that's kind of where
Mhm.
bodybuilding helps. You usually show up with like your own pre-portioned food because you're in prep
Yeah.
anyway, and they're used to you eating
Right.
weird and counting every grain of rice, so maybe it's not so odd. But do you have that issue? Do you have problems with your family thinking that you're wild for
Y-
changing around what they want to eat?
well, I don't know if you can relate to this. I kind of started becoming more the weird one, different one, obviously with fitness and then obviously athletics. And then later I'm becoming vegan and then, going into different like Eastern philosophies and all this, so kind of like I grew up with like a very particular background, I grew up in Pennsylvania. So kind of like more kind of like, I don't want to say country, but it was like more country-ish,
Yeah.
country-ish. I went to Catholic school for like 12 years. So it's kind of like coming out of that, like in my early 20s, I kind of started to recalibrate, came out at a very low moment of my life. And then I started reading again, believe it or not. I used to love reading growing up, and I had stopped reading for like 5 or 6 years. And I just went to my local library and I got like 10 books. I was like, well, I want to read again, and this is cool. That got me
Hmm.
into Eastern philosophy, and then I started learning more about health and fitness, and met my wife, and then she was vegan. It's like kind of like it. So in a way, I was like already weird, then getting weirder, weirder, weirder. So that's where it's like, and I think you can relate to that. It's kind of like we already have kind of like our own idiosyncrasies or kind of like
Hmm.
differences, right? And it sounds like
Hmm.
your mother in particular was very receptive to kind of like how you, I guess, shared the information. My mom was pretty receptive as well when I shared her for kind of like, plant-based lifestyle. And, she just read the China study. That was pretty cool. I got
Yeah.
that for her and she was like, holy crap. I remember this is a few months ago. We were back up in New York, and she's like, this changes everything that we know about like health and nutrition. I'm like,
Everything.
that's correct. So, I mean, like, there's one thing to like understand it, it's the other thing now to apply it. But it's like, yes, okay, now you had the insight. Now we just got to make a few more
Yeah,
shifts here.
exactly. Why do you think it's that way that women are maybe more receptive to it than men? I found that in my experience as well. My mother versus my father, or people
Yeah.
in general. But why do you think that is?
For me, from what I think I noticed, you probably actually tell me if this is something you've noticed too. A guy will struggle with a problem for 10, 15, 20 years. He's like, I'm going to figure this out, right? He's like, I will figure this out. He's like, yeah, I will figure it out. A woman will struggle for 10 months, and she's like, let me go hire a professional. Let me go get the education resource. Let me go like, get support with this. It's
That's
like,
exactly it. I've never thought about it.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a bit of a ego base, kind of like, with men kind of like feeling
Mhm.
like it's a DIY. I got to figure this out. I'm the man, that kind of thing. And it's like, woman, but that's why women are more intelligent. It's like, no, I need support. I need guidance. So I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. I think that's very true. Yeah. I think especially if you come at them with like from a mother point of view, they're like empathetic and caring, and so
Yeah.
like a lot of females that I've talked to, when they are talking about dairy and all that kind of stuff, it's like taking milk from a mother that was made for that child, and now we're taking it for ourselves. And I think that really like hits on a lot of things. The Cheese Trap is a good book that Dr. Bernard has out, and he talks about all of that. And so I think, yeah, in that instance, guys, not all of them are that caring and feeling touchy feely,
Sure.
but some of them are. But I
Yeah.
think the females have a lot of that going for them, and that's super helpful when trying to
Yeah.
like have that conversation about like the animals have feelings too, coming
Hmm.
from a female perspective. But it'd be interesting to have like a study of finding out, like, of all the vegan families, like who went vegan first, who helped the other
Yeah.
one go vegan. Was it the female or the male, and the why behind that? But I think you have a good point
For
with
sure.
that, the ego.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah. Carol Dweck, she had a great book. You're probably familiar with it, Mindset. Where she talked about
Yes.
growth mindset. Yeah, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. I think that one of the things that I've noticed, I mean, being a male, is that especially if you are praised or criticized a lot, this will lead to a fixed mindset, right? And
Hmm.
obviously, if you
Hmm.
have a fixed mindset, it's really hard to change, right? It's not the easiest thing to change. And so, and I don't think this is common for every family, but in general, it seems like boys tend to be a little bit more criticized and or
Yeah.
praised. right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
growing up.
yeah,
It's like so easy to like reprimand a boy, but a girl it's kind of it's not as not and I'm not saying that's every family,
yeah.
but
Right,
I
right.
do see that that's probably a core root where it's kind of like a lot more female, a lot of women have more of that beginner's mindset. They're more receptive. They're like they're open to being coachable, right? Where it's like a
Mhm.
guy's like they're stuck in the ways. It's kind of it is sad, It's kind of like they're just repeating the generational pattern.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad that there were documentaries coming out, like the Game Changers, and
Hmm.
Arnold's in there saying like,
Yeah,
actually, I'm going more towards
this
a less
is
meat diet
yeah, yeah, no,
to
that was
help.
good. I mean, like the icon of like bodybuilding and like, meat heavy, like, animal protein heavy. And it's kind of like him saying, and well, yeah, I mean, probably he realized it's like, yeah, I want to live like another 20, 30 years. Probably makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, not have my arteries clogged. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
good he's
Well,
a good voice for that.
he's a good voice. Well, as we start to kind of like wrap up here, what are you excited about in terms of like changes in the healthcare space and the fitness space and the overall wellness space? Like what's got you excited?
Yeah, I think for sure people are becoming more aware that plant-based is like a good longevity tool in especially the healthcare system. There's a lot of doctors that are starting to learn all that. And then I think in the fitness side, it's the same idea. People are staying forward longer, like in my bodybuilding space where you get less and less meals every single day as you cut. Like I get
Right.
to have like all this fiber and, people lose weight a lot easier in that instance. And then like huge athletes, like a lot of CrossFit guys are finding out that they just burn better when they have that kind of fuel on board and these ultra marathon runners. And so I think the more that we get that out, that's where social media helps, that we get the word out that these people are doing incredible feats of strength
Mhm.
and fitness and they're doing it on a plant-based diet. I think it's going to become more norm. And then
Mhm.
that starts dripping over into the healthcare field. I also am so excited to find out, what are we going to learn with, you heard that the meats are coming out, the little cell grown meats. So we're going to find
The
out.
cell, right, right, right. The cell growth. Well, I mean, what's your take on that? Because I mean, I spend like
Mm,
45 minutes talking to Brady about that, and he's he has a interesting perspective, especially with the whey. Right now, they have the vegan whey, like actual like, and he said like apparently it's even more effective than animal protein. It's like this is crazy, like kind of
yeah,
like
it is wild.
technology. It's crazy.
Yeah, from an animal rights perspective, I like that, maybe if we could just have like one cell and then forever feed people that need to
Sure,
eat that animal, from that. I like that.
sure.
I'm curious to see. I mean, people are still going to see like congestive heart disease and heart failure. And you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's still the exact same cholesterol levels and
yeah,
everything
that's what I
still
was
coming up.
thinking. I'm like, right, right. I'm like, for the ethics perspective, it makes sense. Okay, fine. Though for me, it's still kind of like sci-fi, kind of like a bit weird. Something doesn't sit quite right with me. But okay, on the ethics, fine. Okay, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's like, but what about? It's still animal protein. It's still animal protein. It's still,
Yeah.
but then Brady was mentioning that apparently they can remove out all the negative health effects from it, even if we remove kind of like the negative health effects from the animal cells. I mean, is that still something like would you see it as a viable kind of like protein source or food source then for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been vegan for so long. I just like my fruits and vegetables. I know where they come from. They're not like
Same here.
some, yeah,
Yeah.
like some
It's not coming
grown
from
in
a
a lab.
petri dish. Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah, but
sense.
I think it's a step in the right direction, right? I mean, maybe it uses less land and water, and it won't harm the animals. So sure, I'm happy that all this is coming along. But yeah, I'll stick with my tempeh and tofu and soy.
Same, same. Yeah, I think it's like, and I'm almost like what 8 or 9 years, but it's kind of like you do something for so long. It's. I mean, this is normal now. I mean, this has always been normal. But yeah, it's a different paradigm. Yes, with things shifting, I I think that people are people are like so willing to fight for animal protein. They're like, I will make this from a lab, and it's like, okay, we got it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you need it that bad. Fine. It's just a nicer way to get it done. Okay, didn't
Right,
harm
right.
many beings.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talk to me about as we wrap up here. Well, how would you describe health in kind of like a few sentences? Like, what would be your definition of health, in your own
Mm,
words?
how I think it's I don't know. I used to look at it from a long like a timeline. Like if I get to 99 years old and I can still like run around and, sit up and down on a chair without like hurting myself, then I'm healthy, right? But nowadays it's more of like a zoomed in point of view, like every day being healthy and happy and being able to move your body. And that all comes like when you feel good about yourself, when you've giving
Mm.
yourself the right fuels when you've gotten out in the sun and had vitamin D, when you had a good amount of sleep, when you can go into that gym and like hit a PR and feel great about what you've done.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
today I take
Yeah.
it day to day because I mean, if you're always just looking at like the goal 100 years from now, it
Sure.
gets tiring. So like each day, what
Yeah.
can I do to be better and to do better and to feel better? And that always
Mm.
comes from like what I put on my plate 5 times a day.
Yeah.
That I have 5 meals, and then like how I treat myself, how do I talk to myself mentally? It's like
Yeah.
such a whole different perspective, and I think that's really more important that I think people need to start looking into instead of just like how do I get to this career in the end, or how do I
Yeah.
retire and have this car and this house? It's not as
Sure.
important as like the little everyday goals and wins that you can have in your everyday.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like what you said before. It's like it's important to have goals. It's important to kind of like strive for something. But at the same time, I mean, if you're always living in the future, it's kind of like you're kind of like missing out all the moments right here. Like whether it's a PR in the
Yeah.
gym, whether it's just enjoying a meal with your spouse or, just going for a walk with your mom. It's like, yeah, it'll be
Mhm.
cool to like, live to 100, and be the first person in my family to do that or the second or third. But at the same time, it's also cool to enjoy the process. Like kind of like as cliche as it sounds, like enjoy the journey, right? Like just
Yeah,
settle in and just be the best that you can every day.
exactly, exactly. That's what I love, and that's what I strive for every day.
Love it. Love it. Well, if anybody wanted to kind of like support you, kind of like connect with you, follow along with you, what would be the
Mhm.
kind of like the best places to do that?
I think I'm probably most active on Instagram, and so that's Fit by Ficarra, Fit underscore by underscore Ficarra, Ficarra is my new last name. So I just got married.
Sounds good. Congrats.
But otherwise, yeah, I kind of try to stay off of social media a lot because it can just, I mean, it can consume you and eat you up, and I got goals.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they can reach out to me there.
Okay. Sounds good. So fit underscore by underscore Ficarra. We'll put that in the show notes. Make sure that's all linked out. Obviously, don't
Thank you.
harass Melissa. She's got goals. She's going places, and she's also enjoying the journey. Right? She wants to live her life. But definitely an inspiration. Definitely an inspiration to connect with. I've really enjoyed. I got to say, I've really enjoyed watching your videos and kind of like how you're showing up. Sharing your kind of like exampleship. And I mean, this is cool. So we're going 3 for 3 now, right? Third potential card now to potential.
Yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. I got some big stages I'm going on. This next one coming up in June, I'm gonna be going against 9 Olympians, and this is
Okay.
my pro
Okay.
debut, my first ever. So we'll
Oh
see
my god.
how we show up. I'm ready.
All right. All right. Let's go. And when's the date for this?
June 13th, I believe, the Mile High Pro,
Okay.
and then I'm doing the
All
Indy
right.
Pro after that. I have to do a lot of shows to win that Olympia invite, that Arnold invite.
Okay. So this is all ramping up as you get there.
Yep.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Well, I'm gonna be following your story, so this will be great to see.
Thank
Great to cheer
you.
you on. Yeah. Thanks for being on the show, Melissa. Really look forward to following your journey. And yeah, it's great learning from you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Talk soon.